So next topic is the poison pawn. Poison pawn is a topic which I like to talk about also because it's something you see very often. We all know the poison pawn variation in the Nido, for example, but there are also other openings where poison pawns can be taken, and it's always the question whether it's good or bad. But there's also this phrase in chess: never capture a poison pawn. You make it more difficult for yourself. Of course, there are some advantages of grabbing a pawn. First of all, you win material, but you could also disturb your opponent's development. The following game, however, very nicely shows that taking a poison pawn costs also a lot of time, especially when the queen takes this poison pawn. And the game between Bassem Amin and Dmitry Gordievsky from the Wijk aan Zee tournament 2018 is a great example of how things can go wrong after capturing such a pawn. So we have a Sicilian, knight f3, knight f6. It's a bit an odd line, this Nimzowitsch variation, but still quite regularly played by some grandmasters. e5, knight e5, knight c3, and this is actually an interesting moment because after knight takes c3, we also get to discuss how to recapture, and this is something I also would like to discuss with you on a bit later in one of the other videos. After knight takes c3, you are for a choice, taking towards the center or away from the center. And for both captures, there's something to say. In this case, however, I believe it's better to take the knight back by capturing away from the center with d takes c3. Because with d takes c3, you're opening the center, so you're accelerating the development of your pieces, and particularly the bishop can be developed faster, but also the rook is able to join later play. So that makes sense, and it also gives some options for white to castle queenside a bit faster if he wishes to do so. But for now, I believe it's also a nice thing to take away from the center because you get some pressure down the d file, as we will see. Knight c6 was played. Bishop c4. Okay, there are other moves as well, but I like the bishop on c4 because you always keep an eye on this weak Achilles heel next to the king. Black goes e6, and okay, I'm not sure this is best. Frankly, I'm not up to date on the theoretical line, on the theoretical status of this line. But it feels like you're also kind of weakening your dark squares. Now you don't have a knight on e4 which can immediately exploit that. But still, bishop f4 is a move which appeals a lot to me because you prevent black from playing a move like d5 anytime soon. Now the question is how to play with black, and black went for this move queen b6, and in my opinion black is asking too much from his position, because if you look at black's current state of development, he has played a lot of pawn moves. He has exchanged his knight by playing 3 moves first to take on c3, so that is a lot of time. His position is not really ready for such an action in my opinion. I don't really see what black is going to do with his development. I would like to see he's coming up with a plan to bring his king into safety, to develop his pieces. Whenever your pieces are all participating, it improves your general chances. But here, also the bishop on c8, it's not intending to be developed very soon. So this move, queen b6, doesn't appeal to me. I believe queen c7 is a better move, trying to battle the pawn on e5. Maybe you have ideas to play a move like f5, or maybe at some point to play d6 or d5 anyway, once the queen leaves to e2, for instance. In any case, you need to do something with your development. Queen b6 is not good, in my opinion. White has the question how to deal with the threat of queen takes b2. Well, there are a lot of options. Rook b1 and b3 have been played quite often in fact. And as I remember well, I think the move knight d2 is not that common. But in fact, I like the intention of Amin's move. He's not a theoretical player, but a player with a great understanding, and he also feels that the knight is actually quite nicely placed on e4. So after queen takes b2, white went for the move knight e4. So he's protecting the pawn on c3, so you cannot take a second pawn, but the knight is doing well on e4, preventing the backward pawns on d7 and f7 to move forward. And by moving from f3 to e4, you're also clearing the path for the queen to come to one of the squares on the king side. So it also helps you to build up your attacking potential. Despite the fact that you're making two moves with your knight, I believe it's justified because of all those considerations. You have three pieces very nicely placed in the center. And even though you're not immediately punishing the queen for taking on b2, you have a lot of time to build up your attack. So in this game of my student, the first video, Eline Rubers, she played this move a3 earlier on to trap the queen. But very often you're not really in the position to punish your opponent immediately. It doesn't lead to material gain right away. But that's not really needed. If you just keep on improving your pieces and play with the right spirit, your tactical opportunities, they will come itself. So black went back with the queen to b6, and now white went for queen g4. This is a nice move because you're ensuring that the bishop cannot leave f8. You don't really want to play a move like g6 because that would weaken the dark squares even more, particularly the f6 square. So, well, if you check this with an engine, the engine actually mentioned perhaps you got to play queen a5, but it feels counterintuitive, and I'm not really sure it's too great. If you, sorry, not king f1, but if you castle kingside, well, maybe there are ideas to play queen a4 and try to put some pressure on the fourth rank. But after bishop d3, I doubt that things are working out well for black, and in the long run, you're still suffering from your development. So I doubt it's a good plan. Knight a5 was played, but now you're putting a knight on the side of the board. It's something we're going to talk about as well. I feel it's kind of a desperate decision. It's also coming from a lack of alternatives. And once again, those bishops are still on their initial squares and they keep the king in the center. Bishop is just going back to e2. Bishop is not badly placed there. The queen is already on g4, so you no longer have to find a nice attacking spot for the queen. And what is the knight going to do there? In fact, the queen went back to b2. This might look very strange. White just castles. And now after queen c2, black has a second pawn. But who gives a damn if you are just having all your pieces out, you're having completed your development. So there are a lot of options. Bishop f3 is a move which appeals a lot to me as well, just to put more pressure there. But the idea is basically the same as after the game's continuation. You just want to put your rooks in the center, and you will try to create new weaknesses against the black king. But let's see the game. Queen f3 was played. And, well, black could consider now to play a move like bishop e7. But the problem is that white will then respond with the move bishop g5. Bishop e7 was actually possible because pawn on g7 was no longer threatened after queen f3. But now white is about to exchange dark squared bishops, and that's a bad thing. That's not something you want to allow. For example, after bishop takes g5, you could recapture on g5, but then perhaps the queen is coming back. So I like, after bishop takes g5, to insert the move bishop to d3, queen goes back to a4, and now knight takes g5. Fantastic attacking chances. f7 is weak. How are you going to defend that pawn? You gotta move something, let's say rook f8, but then you can just take on h7 first, winning a pawn. So a lot of problems, and also the d6 square is looming. So instead of recapturing, there are also ideas to play knight d6. But I believe there is no reason to complicate matters, and you can just keep it simple, and with natural play you're building up a nice attack as well, without forcing yourself to calculate a lot of complicated lines. So that's why the move knight d6 doesn't get my preference. So queen a4 played, and now, okay, it looks as if there are no immediate threats, but white is just on its way to optimize his position. Rook ab1 is a move I like a lot, just putting a rook on the open file. Ideas with b6 and bishop b7 are not really working because of the rook hanging, so there's a discovery check with the knight. So a6 played, and here also a move like bishop g5 looks very strong to me, just putting more pressure on the dark squares. Even ideas with knight f6 are perhaps an idea, but also rook fd1, the move played by Amin, makes a lot of sense to me. Very healthy play. h6 played, so this was a key idea for black to take away the g5 square, but it's once again, it's not a developing move. We have played 15 moves, and as you can see, there's only a knight on a5, a queen on a4, which has made a lot of moves, and there are still so many pieces on the back rank which are not actively participating. White went bishop g3 with a clear plan that after knight c6 to put a queen on f4, so you're setting up a little trap against the queen on a4, so that's quite sensible. Black went b5, so protecting the queen, and now another nice idea of queen to f4 is that the bishop is now coming to h5, challenging the weak spot. So of course queen f4 is not only played with a little tactic, it's a multi-purpose move. If you play only for a single purpose move, it's much easier to defend for your opponent. So always try to make your pieces more multifunctional. Bishop h5 is a good move. You don't want to play g6, which is weakening too much your position. For example, I will just go back with my bishop to f3, and for instance the following line is quite convincing in my opinion. Bishop e7, I like the move knight f6. I don't think you want to take that knight. King f8, and now very cute line, queen takes a4, you're swapping queens, b takes a4, and there's knight takes d7. Now you're threatening to take the knight as well, so bishop takes d7, rook takes d7, there's this unpleasant pin, so even though the queens are traded off, the tactical ideas are still pretty much in the air. Rook ac8, only move, and now you see why it's so important to have your pieces nicely placed before you start harvesting. You can take on c6 here, rook takes c6, and the best move is to play rook b to b7 with the devastating mating attack. You could also have played rook b8, which would have won material, but this is also devastating. Completely paralyzed is black's position. So that's why I would like to make a small applause for this moves rook ab1 and rook fd1, because they really strengthen your position before you deliver the decisive blow. So you cannot play this move g6. Knight d8 was played, and now another cute move, bishop h4, just increasing the pressure one more time, threatening to just eliminate this defender and take on f7. If you play g5, this is like kamikaze, and it allows knight f6, king e7, only move. And now I like bishop takes g5. It's a cute move. No time to swap queens, because that runs into knight d5 double check. You got to go back with the king, and there's this cute mating idea with a knight on c7. And if you take the bishop, then well, you can just take with the queen, with similar mating idea with knight d5, knight c7. Should be just game over. No defense available for black. So g5 doesn't work. In the game, bishop b7 was played, but after that move, black's position collapses very quickly. Bishop takes d8, you're threatening to take on f7 and then take on d7, so no time to take on e4 with black. So king takes d8, queen takes f7, threatening mate, bishop c6, protecting the mate, and now bishop f3, intending to move the knight and take on c6. king c7, and knight g5 played. I like this move. If you take on g5, then you'll actually take on c6, king takes c6, and now queen takes d7 is actually not leading to mate immediately, because surprisingly there are some squares covered. But there are a lot of other moves, and I think the simplest is queen f3, picking up the material. The king remains very unsafe in the middle of the board, so this doesn't offer black any sort of salvation. But rook takes d7 is very, very powerful as well. So black decided after knight g5 to run with the king, but after bishop takes c6, black's position is falling apart as well. Can't really take, because you'll take on d7 or take on e6 with mating threats coming. So rook a7, funny move, as both pieces on c6 and g5 are still hanging, but rook takes d7 is a simple move, just entering with your major pieces. Queen takes a2, and after rook b7, rook takes b7, queen takes b7. Black resigned, because if you play king a5, you just take on b5, and it's going to be checkmate on the next move. So very nice game. You see the impact of grabbing a poisoned pawn. It's not really recommended. You are giving in too much time, allowing your opponent to seize the initiative, develop the pieces, and even though very often you don't have an immediate win at your disposal, usually it leads to more problems in the long run. And since black was simply unable to catch up in development, black never really saw any nice play with his extra pawn. So I think the black player learned a good lesson, and you better stay away from grabbing such pawns. Even though in some cases it's good, it's better not to do it. So nice example.